Minnesota Vikings trading into the top 3 for Will Levis? Smoke? Or is there something legit going on here? Draft week is finally upon us.
Let's go.
And, the biggest thing is when it gets to this point, the BS really starts to ramp up. What's real?
Yeah.
What's not? Surrounding all these with the uncertainty of what's going to happen in the top 5. But of course, the best thing is that some of these rumors are now involving our Minnesota Vikings and the potential quest for a new quarterback for the Vikings and coming into the NFC North. But before we get into new quarterbacks coming into the NFC North, let's talk about a quarterback who, as of today, the news just broke, will no longer be in the NFC North, and that is Aaron Rodgers and the Jets finally finalized a trade to send him there. Green Bay hitching the wagons and Jordan Love, and Aaron Rodgers mercifully is finally out.
Let's go. Get him out of here. North. But before we go any further with Aaron Rodgers, I want to thank everybody for being in here to the GG Sports podcast and hit subscribe, the little button on the lower right corner of your screen. We are doing a big draft party this Thursday with everybody out of Purple and Skol Media, Purple Pocket Podcast, Purple Skol Media, us, GG Sports, of course, Minnesota Sports Talk, and Jace, Purple and Gold for days, where we will also be doing giveaways, including this Justin Jefferson PSA 10. So subscribe to our channel, click the bell for notifications so you can be ready to go see that as well. We're going to have some guests, Matthew Hatchett, former Vikings wide receiver, and Daryl Madison, Alexander Madison's pops, is going to show up to talk about him and his new extension, all that good stuff. It's going to be a good time, so make sure you show up. Anyways, back to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. So the deal finally went through, and it's kind of shocking. It's weird. I was expecting the Packers to get more, but also with the news as of late that Rodgers was saying it's Jets or nobody. It did really feel like the Packers didn't have a ton of leverage left. But anyway, the deal is done. The Jets, of course, get Aaron Rodgers and a first round swap, I believe. So they'll be picking number 15. Packers will move up to 13. The Packers get a second rounder this year. I believe a sixth rounder this year as well. And then a conditional first for next year, which is a second that turns into a first if Rodgers plays 65% or more of the snaps. So the deal is finally done. We don't need to hear about it anymore. Aaron Rodgers is out of the NFC, not only the NFC North, but Aaron Rodgers is out of the NFC. Best of luck to the Jets. Enjoy his weirdness. And
yeah. And let's hope for Jordan Love to suck. Really bad. But what do you think about this trade? Because so obviously at the end of the day, they swapped first round picks, got another second for this year, and then next year, hopefully Aaron Rodgers can only play less than 65% of his of the games or snaps or whatever it is, because then it'll be a second rounder instead of that first rounder. So obviously if it ends up being just 2 second round picks and a swap, which is that's like pretty much pointless. Obviously there's going to be a decent amount of players there at 13 compared to 15, but it's not going to be anything too crazy. So 2 seconds for Aaron Rodgers, potentially 1 first instead of 1 of the seconds. What do you think about that?
I think it's fine. Like you really feel like the Packers might not get much out of this with the little leverage that they have or had, but at the same time, like, it's kind of funny that they didn't get what they're like, we're going to get multiple firsts for Rodgers, and they didn't. So
yeah.
I don't know. I think they could have gotten more, but again,
I think they could have gotten more, and especially knowing like there's a chance they might not get any first round for a guy who was MVP just 2 years ago.
Right. So, but of course, obviously the money plays into that as well. But
right.
Anyway, out with the old, potentially in with the new. Let's move on to some of this Minnesota Vikings conversation here. So the Draft Network did a mock draft. And here was a big trade that happened. Minnesota Vikings in this draft traded up to number 2, or traded up with Houston at number 2. There is some speculation right now that Houston isn't necessarily sold on a quarterback at 2. I think they loved Bryce Young, and if had they gotten the number 1 overall pick, I think they would have stick and picked there. But obviously, as of late, there's a lot of questions about CJ Stroud. Obviously, people wondering, is he just like a product of everything that Ohio State had to offer over there for him? And as well, like his mobility in the pocket, is he good enough at getting out of the pocket, extending
the Wonderlic test?
And then, of course, with the testing that just came out today, he scored pretty low. So I guess there's a question there: is he, do they think he'll be smart enough to pick up a playbook? I still think he's a great talent. I would be shocked. I mean, it sounds like he might take a little bit of a tumble, which is unfortunate because I think there's a lot of potential with him there. But that's a different story. Let's talk about this Minnesota Vikings news here. And they had the Minnesota Vikings trading up to 2 and taking Kentucky quarterback Will Levis. This is, I mean, kind of adding on to that, a tweet from Barstool Sports. Loud rumblings out of Minnesota and latest odds suggest the Vikings love Will Levis enough to trade up number 2 overall to draft him. And as you can see in the next slide here, there is the updated odds to go number 2 overall. Will Levis, a sizable jump up here to minus 145. So yeah, I mean that's and it's because again we're in that season. Is it the pure BS season? Is it smoke or is there something here potentially? And it's been talked about for months now that Kevin O'Connell really loved Will Levis. Saw a lot of potential in him, which I mean it's obvious. Like you look at his numbers from 2021. He was 66% completion, 2,826 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions as well. That was also one of his better rushing seasons as well. I think he had like 300 and some yards rushing that year. Right. He's, being what, 6'4", I believe he is. He's probably a first down and quarterback sneak machine. I mean, if you look at his measurables, it's hard to see. Yeah. It's not hard to see why Kevin O'Connell likes him so much.
Right. And I know you're a big Levis fan. You've been a Levis fan throughout this entire process. Me, I'm not so much. I'm just not convinced. I don't know. There's a couple things from just watching him that worries me, which is him holding on to the ball too long and allowing himself to get sacked instead of using his mobility that he does have to escape the pocket and extend plays with his arm, especially and his legs last year, his regression from last year, the year before to last year. So all that stuff that's worried from a playing standpoint. And I don't know how to take his cockiness yet. I don't know if I like it. Is it like one of those things where it's like, I know quarterbacks need to be as confident as possible. You have to. It's the most important position in all of sports, is what I'm trying to say here. And, so you need that confidence. So if you see a little cockiness, like, all right, whatever. But at the same time, I'm worried about maybe you're just too cocky. You think you're better than everybody and you won't listen to, Kirk Cousins the year he sits behind him or anything like that. So there's things where I'm like, I wasn't as fond of him as Bryce Young for sure. CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson, who has that super high ceiling. I think he's safer than Anthony Richardson for sure. But in my opinion, I would have rather had one of those three instead of Levis for the top 4 quarterbacks. Especially even with Stroud's Wonderlic test, I think moving up to 2 would be scary for me. And just knowing that we're just going to go pick Levis and let Stroud go or Anthony Richardson go. I'd rather for sure, if we go after Levis, I'd rather all those quarterbacks be gone and then we go and pick Levis. So we don't have to, it's like, we didn't really have a choice at the other quarterback. So it's whatever. But if we pick them instead of some of the other quarterbacks and these quarterbacks end up being really good, obviously that would suck pretty bad. But like you said, I don't really know. I'm not a professional at this. My opinion doesn't matter that much compared to Kevin O'Connell and them. And if they really like this guy so much that they're willing to go all the way up to 2nd overall pick, of course, I'm going to jump on board with the way they're thinking on it and kind of roll with that. And, I'll be excited anyways, because I'm ready to move on, obviously, from Kirk and just get younger at quarterback and try to go towards our future. I know Levis has everything you do want from a quarterback: arm strength, mobility, everything that we're looking for. So it'll be interesting. He also scored really high on that Wonderlic test, like 90 or 92 or something like that. Yeah. So that's a big plus. So I wouldn't be too super upset, but I'd have to be honest. We went up and grabbed any of the other 3 quarterbacks instead of him. I think I'd be more excited to see if that happens. But no matter what, if we do that, that's going to be a big move for a whole entire organization. And it's something that that I think everybody will be excited about no matter what, even though there's quite a bit of us that are not 100% on board with Levis. But
I mean, because there really isn't a sure thing quarterback in this class. And that's they all have their ifs, ands, or buts and what ifs, So, I mean, but, something that you talked about the regression of Will Levis in 2021 to 2022. Something that I did want to bring up about that is that in 2021, his offensive coordinator was Liam Cohen, who actually was the man that replaced Kevin O'Connell this last season in LA after O'Connell took the Vikings job, of course. Now he's back at Kentucky. So there could be something there where they saw, we had this guy, Will Levis, in 2021, put up pretty solid numbers. He also had Wan'Dale Robinson, the receiver who went to the Giants, who played pretty well until he got hurt. So obviously losing a playmaker like that hurts as well. But maybe Kentucky saw, like, with Liam Cohen, we had Will Levis, he played well. Without him, he still played okay, but he didn't reach his full strength. So maybe Liam Cohen was the answer there. Maybe he just needs a better offensive coach. And I know Kevin O'Connell and Liam Cohen are both pretty close. So Kevin O'Connell kind of has the insight of, like, what do you know about him? What's he like? And I think those conversations must have happened with how much, and like we talked about, it's been talked about for months now, that Kevin O'Connell is in on Will Levis. And I've said it throughout this entire process. Like, I'm more positive Kirk Cousins than a lot of people are. But also I've said, like, if there is a guy that you see as being the guy, go get him, and I won't be upset about it. And I've been as more and more speculation comes out that we're in on quarterbacks due to the fact we let Kirk Cousins' contract run out. There's rumors out there about maybe looking into Hendon Hooker as well, in case maybe a move up doesn't happen. But I'm definitely buying into the quarterback hype now. I'm ready for it.
I know it's hard. I don't want to. Right. I don't want to buy into it because we're all excited. We're gonna have a new quarterback, all this stuff, and we know we're just gonna sit there at 23, pick, overdraft some player that isn't even a positions of need that much, like Lewis seen last year, even though hopefully he's a beast, whatever. So I mean, that would be a huge disappointment at this point, especially with that news, like whether it's the player I wanted or not, like that's huge news that we like someone. So we're going to go up to second overall. That's massive. So it's so exciting, but Minnesota sports fans will get disappointed in some way, some form, but hopefully not. Hopefully it's exciting, especially, when all of you guys are watching our live draft party. It's going to be better for all of us to see something exciting happen and not just sit there at 23. But I mean, either way, but unless there's a really good player there. But.
And I don't see the issue with the attitude. Like, like you kind of talked about, you need that. If you're going to be a quarterback, and if you're going to be a quarterback that a lot of people
prefer you to be too confident and then not confident enough as quarterback.
Absolutely. But then, like, because he's going to be one of those guys that let's be honest, these kids, he's a kid. He's on social media. He sees all the news. He sees people saying, oh, he's not worth it. Like, don't move up to take him. He's not any good. All this stuff. You got to be able to rise above that, have a little bit of confidence, be like, these guys don't know. I'll get into the league and I'll do great things. And I think, Kevin O'Connell, I'm sure they've had meetings with him, as we know, he knows people. I'm sure that they've discussed it. You think if these rumors are coming out now and they're picking up a little more steam, they have to be comfortable with the person. And there's nothing, and like I said, there's nothing wrong with being confident. Like, obviously you don't want to be arrogant, but look at Aaron Rodgers. He's been arrogant his whole career and it's worked out for him pretty much. So
I know that's Aaron Rodgers is an example, but
I don't see Will Levis being that type, but I don't know. The attitude doesn't bother me. You want a guy with that, like, that's a dog. You want him to think he's the best, because that's how you be the best.
And you're literally trying to be that in that world, quarterback, NFL, you really have to have that mindset, which is, such a slim, like, that's, nobody has that. You have to be a special person to kind of be like that. But no, I agree. I think, I'm not as worried before, especially if we go get him. I know Kevin O'Connell, I know our whole organization at this point, just starting with hiring Kevin O'Connell over Jim Harbaugh, and the reason why they did that, a lot of it was because of KOC's style of leadership. So I trust, just because of watching them this past season, their leadership, the way they approach our players, the way they do anything like that. I can't imagine, like, they would go to a player that's way overly cocky that they think's going to come in and their shit doesn't sink type of player, and they're just going to fall in love with that kind of guy, because that's not who they are as coaches and stuff like that. And we've seen that with the KOC hire over Jim Harbaugh. So, I mean, I'm hoping that's what I'm kind of banking on. So if that's what they go off of, then I trust their opinion for sure, because the way they handled our team last year. And then the Mayo coffee stuff and all that stuff, that's a positive. I like that because it was not true. So he was joking. So I like that you have a sense of humor. You're not taking everything so serious as well, which also makes me feel a little bit better about the cockiness thing, that you're willing to, kind of make fun of yourself in a way.
Yeah.
But those are just little things as far as that goes. Really, at the end of the day, it's just, can he play football? And he definitely can. But, there is some things to worry about, but he has all the tools you could ever want from a quarterback.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and with draft night coming closer, this is only going to ramp up. But anyway, the Draft Network, Minnesota Vikings moving up to number 2 to draft Will Levis, and loud rumblings of the Vikings being interested in Levis. Is it legit? Is it just smoke screens? We'll find out Thursday. Let us know what you guys think down in the comment section. Is this going to happen? Is it not? We'll see you guys next time on the GG Sports Podcast.
Skol Vikes.